time.
Kingdom Hearts, the famous Final Fantasy and Disney crossover series where Cloud Strife, Sephiroth, and Donald fucking Duck can exist on the screen at the same time. It's a series of games with wildly different gameplay styles, from standard action RPG with some platforming to an action car game of all things. And then whatever the fuck DDD is.
Dream Eaters! That's a weird name.
Sure, the games do have a through line. You can always hit things, you can always jump, except for the phone games, but who cares? You can always dodge, except for the phone. But when the non-number games differ so much, surely there's going to be some differences in those base aspects of Kingdom Hearts, right? Yes, there are. And people bitched about it. A common complaint with the more recent titles is that the combat isn't as tight as it used to be with 1 or 2, or just straight up not the same as 2. And a common sentiment in those complaints is that the games feel floaty. So, the goal of this video is to find out where this sentiment started, and if Kingdom Hearts was ever floaty in the first place. Yes, before we get to any of the games, let me make something clear. My objective here isn't to find out where the term floaty was coined in regards to the series. My entire focus will be on the games themselves, and my opinions on them. We'll have to define what floaty even means in the context of Kingdom Hearts, because, in case you've never seen gameplay, somehow, this Sora kid does some insane shit in the air, including straight up flying. Look at him go. Where is he going? For people to start calling the games floaty, something must have really changed from one game to another. So, here's my definition of floaty. For a game to be floaty, it has to have a difference in grounded and aerial options, and where it is considerably difficult to be back on the ground where your options are more advantageous. You like that? Call me the sick chorus. Now that we know what floaty even means, we can look at the first game in the series. KH1 is both very simple and very complicated. Because it has years of platformers and action RPGs behind it, it really didn't have much to innovate on. But that doesn't mean it didn't try to do something new. Jumping in KH1 has a certain weight to it, which derives from 3 things: landing, combat, and defense. When you land on the ground, there's a split second where Sora is unable to be controlled, with the exception of inputting another jump. This by itself makes the jump more of a commitment, where you have to abide by the consequences of being in the air, and that your return will be for free. But aside from reaching higher up, why would jumping need consequences? Well, it's because of combat. Aerial combat in KH1 is considerably faster than on the ground. Because of how the game's animations work, landing will always cancel whatever action you're performing. That includes all of your Keyblade attacks and all of your spells. This cuts down on the actions heavily, highly raising your offensive potential. But that feels a little lopsided, right? A little delay when landing as a trade-off for highly increased DPS? Well, that's not the only trade. While on the ground, you can block and roll to avoid damage. You can do neither in the air. That's right, aside from moving away from damage, you are completely vulnerable in the air. That is the real trade for higher DPS. So, is Kingdom Hearts 1 floaty? Personally, I don't think so. For a kid literally named Sky, I think he's quite grounded actually. If the first game isn't floaty, then we'll see how the next games fare. I'm a little conflicted on how to cover this title. The re in recon stands for remade, because it's not the original. The original in the GBA is naturally very different from the one in the PS2. Should I cover both? Only one? Or just skip it entirely? Well, it's a good thing I'm indecisive because I'm doing both. Chain of Memories is what can only be described as an action card game. The whole game revolves around cards and how to use them and blah 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 blah. What about jumping? Well, jumping in Chain of Memories is dog shit. Not only does jumping itself feel considerably shittier since you lose so much control over Sora in the air, but you also can't play a bunch of cards, along with all of the defensive restrictions from the first game, and without any of the enhanced DPS. Whenever you attack mid-air, you just go forward and hover for like a full second like a fucking UFO. Wait, no, wait! I don't like this game, if you couldn't tell. but I like the GBA version, which has literally none of that. Is Recomp floaty? Yes, it's poopy, it's shit, it's caca, it's cool. But is normal Chain of Memories? Not really. I haven't played it in years. Let's just move on to an actual good game, shall we? Kingdom Hearts 2. My favorite. KH2 takes a lot from KH1. Who would have guessed? Landing has a delay, offensive capabilities are enhanced, and defensive options are limited. The difference between 1 and 2 are the asterisks. Sure, your starting air combo will cancel earlier when you touch the ground, but later on, your finishers will start hovering you in the air, essentially making it impossible to cancel them this way. The same goes for magic. With the way spells work in KH2, they will always make you hover in the same way as the later game finishers are. This makes them both higher commitments, but as a trade, there's also better defensive options in the air. Aside from the elephant, Sora has greater control in the air. Not only can he glide way faster than anyone, but he also has a double jump, just like King DDD from Super Smash Bros. Reflect can be used in the air. Cool, now that we addressed it, let's move on. KH2 works on the philosophy of give and take. Since you can toggle most of your moves on or off, you can opt out of more powerful finishers in order to reach the ground faster and have easier access to your defenses. Defenses that now also extend to your airtime, however limited that may be. This makes the combat considerably more homogenized. I think that's how the word works. And overall gives the player more control, while still having a balance of risk and reward. So is Kingdom Hearts 2 floaty? I'd say no. Like 1, most of the combat is still centered on ground and interactions, and while the new changes make aerial engagements more frictionless, it's still just an addition instead of a whole core aspect of the game. Whew, that was a lot. Let's see what's next. Oh. Okay, let me be very clear. I do not like BBS. I have not played it that long for this video. Now that you all know my bias, let me say, if there ever was a game that was floaty, this will be it. Oh god, fucking damn it! BBS is very similar to Recom in the way that it's dog shit, in the way that it treats aerial movement and combat. Meaning controlling yourself in the air is slow as hell, attacking makes you stay in the air for way longer, and you basically can't do shit in the air. It's slow, gives basically no advantage whatsoever, and it's a downside to stay on the air in most, if not all, combat scenarios. This makes it almost entirely pointless to jump outside of when you're strictly needed to, which I don't like, which is a sin of no forgiveness. I tried giving this game some slack, since it has a new gameplay style with the command deck and all, but even after taking it into consideration, jumping just makes you vulnerable, and some commands can't even be used in the air. Let's talk about DDD. Dream Drop Distance introduces something very interesting into the series, something that will make its return in the next installment, but we'll go over that later. DDD introduces flow motion, a way to interact with the world around you by dashing in the air, either towards a wall or towards things like poles or rails. It not only gives you a massive burst in mobility, both vertically and horizontally, but it also gives you greater offense, by doing special attacks like slams or spinning slashes. It's very powerful. A little too powerful. If you have a wall nearby, you can repeatedly dash into it, use flow motion, smack back against your enemies, dash back against the wall, and repeat the process. The sheer amount of speed and distance you can reach with flow motion makes it very easy to run away from your enemies. Even in scripted battles you can't outright escape from. Not to mention that platforming is almost completely negated by the fact you can just keep jumping on the wall to reach whatever you want. I'd go more in depth about how this affects the way you play, but with how strange DDD is...
Me? I'm already happy.
King DDD!
The combat is similar enough to BBS that I would just be retreading similar ground, and flow motion is already in the next game, so I'll go into more detail with it instead. Sorry, Dreamdrop, I never really cared about you. No, I won't be talking about 0.2. It's not real. Kingdom Hearts 3 is a culmination of most of the previous titles, and the best way of displaying that is with one simple thing. You can block and dodge in the air. That's right, the whole thing that differentiated aerial and ground combat is now null. From that alone, you have more control in the air than ever before. But there's more! With the carryovers from DDD, KH3 expanded on the mechanic of flow motion. It's no longer strictly necessary to dash towards flow motionable objects. You can just look at them, and with a single button press, you'll be sent flying towards your target. And that includes your enemies. You have complete access to the battlefield and your moveset at all times in KH3. Enemy high up in the air, just look at it and go. Enemy sends a bunch of projectiles at you while you're falling, you can block. You never think, damn, if only I was on the ground. Almost every mistake that's made is just that, a mistake on your part. Except for when you get hit off screen, and that's why I struggle with defining KH3 as floaty or not floaty. Because, yes, you are in the air a lot more, but there isn't that big of a difference between air and grounded everything, really. So, I won't define anything. I'll say it's both. It's Schrodinger's Sora. Kingdom Hearts has shredded a lot of ground. Or should I say, air. KH1 started very controlled, jumping high up and only slightly staggering when hitting the ground. Recom got sucked up by God for being Recom. KH2 regained control, and even some finesse with its own aerial movement. BBS got hung by balloons. I have no idea where DDD even is. And KH3 can straight up just fly. So I say the whole floaty thing began right here. I really don't like BBS and its consequences to the whole